Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Christian Taylor. He's a YouTuber. You can find him at Crayler Made on YouTube. He's also a course creator, which you can find his work over there at Crayler.academy. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
I'm really excited to talk to you because you make such good videos. Your YouTube channel is successful. I think with almost 50,000 subscribers, something like that.
Getting close.
Some of your I was looking at some of your most popular videos that have over 400,000 views, and I love how engaging your content is. It was fun to run across you at WordCamp for the first time, but I'm excited to get into it. A lot of course creators either come out of YouTube or they want to get into YouTube because they know they want to do some content marketing that way, maybe generate other streams of income. But let's just start at a high level. Like, you're a YouTuber first and foremost. I think you probably categorize yourself as a creator. Tell us about that moment in time in life 10 years ago or whenever it was where you decided, I want to be a YouTuber. I have kids. Like, the things people want to be when they grow up as a YouTuber, you're doing it successfully. What was the genesis of that for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, creating videos has always been a hobby for me, a passion from pretty much about 10 years old. I think around then is when I started playing around with video, and it was really about learning to edit when I started. I was fascinated by the idea of using Windows Movie Maker. My parents had this big, like chunky desktop, super low power, but it had Windows Movie Maker on it. And I remember there was one day I went to the library, checked out a book, and I had like this little Kodak point and shoot, and I took pictures of all the pages and made a slideshow of the book in Windows Movie Maker. And looking back on it, it's hilarious. It's like the pages were reflecting the flash, so you couldn't even see what was on the page really. And like, why would you photograph a book like that and make a slideshow? But for me, it was just capturing content and having something to edit in Windows Movie Maker and learning about that process. And then I was hooked. I remember one year for Christmas, I got an iPod Nano, and it was one of the few that had a camera on it. Terrible quality. It must have been probably 480p. It could record about 5 minutes of video at once before you'd have to copy it, delete it, start over. But I made it work. I'd record for 5 minutes, copy it, record another 5 minutes, and I know at the time it was really about me learning editing. I started getting into a little bit of motion graphics, text, just kind of learning how the softwares all worked. And then as I started watching other creators on YouTube, really inspired me probably when I was like 12, 13 years old, just being like, hey, I want to do what they're doing. So YouTube's been a hobby for me most of my life, but I don't know that I expected it to become a full-time job. It was more just a passion, something I love doing. And right about the time I graduated high school, that's when it coincidentally became a full-time job. So I was very fortunate with the timing. YouTube is kind of all I know since I've been doing it for over half of my life. So for context, I'm 22 years old, if that gives you an idea of like time frame and all that. But yeah, that's kind of what got me started.
That's awesome. You sound like Mr. Beast a little bit. Like, it's you've been doing it so long, it's half your life, started young. That's incredible. I'm like you in the sense that I was always into video cameras and stuff. I even used to carry my dad's VHS big shoebox size camcorder around, and then the cameras got better and smaller, and it's amazing the tools that people have today. But sometimes video just calls people, and I don't know why that is, but I had that same calling at a really young age. um, we'll get more into like how you evolved, but let's just give people, you start a snapshot of where you are now. You started at 12, you're 22 now. It's been 10 years. What does your like YouTube business look like? Are you like a solopreneur? Do you have people that help? How do you monetize and have this career? Like, what's the current state today?
Yeah, so I'm mostly a solopreneur. I do have 2 freelancers that help me. I've got an editor, and that's been a more recent addition, but love not having to edit my content anymore, which is a little ironic because I know I just said I started with a passion for editing, but we can drill into that later if you want. But freelance editor, I've also got a creative director that helps part-time with ideation, brainstorming, just working with the packaging of videos, the title, the thumbnail. He also makes the thumbnails as well. But I would still consider myself mostly a solo creator. And as far as monetization, there's a couple different ways I do that through YouTube. Obviously, I think most people know about the YouTube ads that play before you watch a video, the 15-second ads, or now Google's getting more and more annoying and they'll play 2 ads back to back before content starts. But that's one revenue stream, and YouTube pays creators a 55% cut of that ad revenue. So that one's nice. It's not very reliable. It's all over the place, but it's nice in that you don't really have to do anything but get views and YouTube just takes care of the rest. So that's one revenue stream. Another one for me is affiliate links. So someone watches the video, they like what I talk about, they buy the product, I get a commission. I think most of your audience would know what affiliate links are, but I always explain it when people ask how I monetize because some people aren't familiar with the term, but um, YouTube ads, affiliate links. The third would be sponsorships. So companies just working with me directly saying, hey, we want to promote our product. We have a message we want to get out, and paying for either an ad slot in the middle of a video where I read the ad or collaborating on a full dedicated video. So that's kind of how I've monetized YouTube. I am in the middle of working on diversifying a bit. So for me, I think that's getting more into courses. I just launched a free course, but that's sort of a way to like build my course website, start getting a bit more comfortable with it, and hopefully a year down the road, 2 years down the road max, I start launching some paid courses and growing some revenue there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, we interviewed on this podcast many years ago. It's one of my favorite episodes with Sean Cannell. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, oh, wow. Yeah, you've interviewed Sean?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's incredible.
He's a great guy, and I think he does a good job of just giving so much value on his YouTube channel, and I should say channels because he has a couple. And he kind of has a signature course. I think he calls it the Creator Academy or something like that. Can't remember, but it's often I've wondered why. I know a lot of YouTubers do courses, but why do you think it's like? How do you feel about course creation versus making a video for the channel? Like, how does that sit with you? Does it feel a lot harder? Is it, hey, this is old hat, I know how to make videos, or what's your experience there?
Yeah, for me, it feels a lot harder. I've had a love-hate relationship with the idea of making courses. In fact, a while back, I think it was 2021, I decided, okay, I'm going to launch a course because this is the next thing to do. I don't think I really wanted to launch a course, but I just felt this pressure of like, all right, I'm doing everything I can on YouTube. I need to diversify. If I want to scale my business further, I need to launch another product. So I reluctantly launched a course, and to sort of push myself or motivate myself, I made maybe a quarter of the content and published it and started selling the course and did that model of like, hey, I expect it to be done in a month or two. You can buy it at a cheaper price right now if you're willing to wait. Like, you already unlock access to some of the content. All of it's coming in 2 months. And then I just got super overwhelmed by having to deliver on that promise. So in the end, I just refunded everyone and said, never mind. Sorry I ever brought it up. I'm not launching a course. Um, and so I think for me, the idea of creating a course is a little bit scary because of the obligation to support it long term. So any course that I would make would likely be based on software like WordPress, doing a tutorial. And I think if I make a YouTube video, I put the video out and it's done. And if someone watches a tutorial on WordPress 4 years later, they're going to understand there might be things about this tutorial that are outdated. Some of the screens may not look the same. It may be completely irrelevant altogether. If I make a course on WordPress, especially if I'm selling it, I then feel like I'm on the hook because courses kind of have that lifetime access model, most of them, of creating this monster that I have to keep updating. Every year I have to re-record all the videos because the UI changes or something changes. So I'm really interested in like the subscription model for software-based courses because I think that might be a little bit more fair on the compensation side. But yeah, long story short, I definitely find creating courses more difficult than a YouTube video.
That makes sense. And because your YouTube videos are so polished and highly produced, I could feel the pressure that is for making like a 20 lesson course or whatever. I love that you've launched a free course to get started. Using a free course to build an email list, I think, particularly for a YouTuber to get the email address and really know who their people are, it's been one of the largest drivers for us at Lifter LMS. We have a quick start course on the Lifter LMS Academy. It's free. I ran into the same problems that you did where the interface changes, WordPress changes. So I've reshot it about 5 times over the past 10 years. But I kind of take the pressure off in the sense that I'm just showing you the 5% of the tool to get the most value and keep it really beginner focused. And lately the last time we reshot it, I actually got some help from the team to record different lessons and stuff, so it wasn't as much on me. But that is definitely a challenge with technology courses because things change and courses go out of date. However, if you look on somewhere like Udemy, some of the top selling things over there are about how to use technology. So people do figure it out, but it is you're right, a big commitment. Um, Tell me about the decision. YouTubers in general aren't necessarily like WordPress people, even though it powers 42% of the internet or whatever. What draws you to WordPress and Lifter LMS to publish your course as opposed to something like Kajabi or Teachable? I see a lot of YouTubers using things like Teachable, particularly in the technology niche. If you're good at technology, WordPress gives you a lot more customizability and power and stuff. But like, why did you choose WordPress over a hosted SaaS solution for courses?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons for that. One would be I make a lot of content on WordPress, so I wanted to practice what I preach. I did think about using Kajabi or some of those other hosted tools, but I thought, I just really want to practice what I preach here and show my audience that I'm using WordPress. And I guess if we step back and ask, how did I even get into WordPress over other website builders? I think it's always been kind of a cost thing since I started exploring technology when I was young, like 10, 11. I think I was like 11 when I got my first laptop and just started tinkering online with Wix and Squarespace and Weebly, just all these website builders because I always thought that was interesting. But the power that you can unlock with WordPress for a much lower cost than other platforms, that was a big thing initially for me. So that sort of got me on the train of being used to using WordPress to build all my sites. And then when I was evaluating that decision for where to host my course, of course, Kajabi is expensive. So that was definitely part of it. I look at the pricing table and cry every time. But I think it was more about in recent years, I've started to have some issues with Google, specifically the AdSense side of things on my channel, and just really get that sense of I don't want to be tied to a particular company more than I have to. Like I hate being reliant on YouTube and Google for the core of my business, and I just don't want some SaaS company that could one, go out of business abruptly, say like, "Hey, we got acquired. We're sunsetting in 3 months. Your decision is either to be part of our new parent company, like maybe there's a pricing change there or something, or get out. Migrate everything, have fun, see you later." So that's a concern. The other concern, which to be honest is not really a concern for me, but it's still sort of a core principle I'm passionate about, is not having a company be able to say like, "Hey, we don't like you, we don't like your content, we're kicking you off of the platform." So WordPress being open source really gave me that confidence that the worst thing that could happen, I suppose, with the second example is one web host says, "Hey, we don't like you," or "Hey, we're shutting down." And to me, it's much easier to migrate a WordPress site to a different host than it is rebuild my course on some new platform. So I think just having the technical flexibility, the lower cost, and that full peace of mind that I have a lot more control over my data, my site, my platform, those all kind of led me to using WordPress and Lifter LMS.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to earlier in your story. Uh, as you're turning 18 or graduating high school or whatever, that age, there's a lot of pressure on young folks to go to college, and you went full-time YouTuber and pulled it off. Like, what was that time period like in terms of having the confidence to move forward and, finances, or at least having some signal that, hey, this is working, I can afford to live and stuff like that?
Yeah, so you're right. I definitely felt that pressure to go to college. I think most people do. And honestly, I think even like the past 2 or 3 years, it's becoming cool to some degree to not go to college. More people are starting to speak out about that idea. But even when I graduated high school, it was sort of that assumption of like, you have to go to college if you're going to be successful in life. And I always knew I didn't wanna go to college. I tinkered with the idea. I sort of had this, like, plan B in my head. Well, if I go to college, I'll probably go for computer science because I was also sort of interested in becoming a developer at the time. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I didn't wanna go to college. So my parents were very generous. They let my brother live at home free when he was going to college for 4 years. And they told me, "Hey, you can live at home for free for the same 4 years as long as you're being productive. Like you've got to be working, doing something. As long as we can see that you're being productive and doing something to further your career, we'll give you that same opportunity." So I looked at it as this is great. I have 4 years that I can not feel the pressure of overhead. I don't have high school anymore, so there's no homework. That's not tying me down. I can really hit the gas and go full speed ahead on YouTube. And I was pretty confident that within those 4 years, I could make it full time. Because right when I graduated, it was making just enough to be a decent part time side hustle, I guess. Like if someone was working a fast food job at that time in life, like for me, it was exceeding that. So it was like, okay, this is like not enough to be like a full time serious career yet, but more than I'd make at a fast food job. So I can't complain. Um, and really, it was within that first year that things skyrocketed significantly. And actually, I was able to buy my house, and the room I'm in now is technically the master bedroom, but for me, it's like my studio. I was able to do that 2 years into that 4 year period.
Wow.
So it was a pretty quick progression of seeing things take off with revenue, just being able to save a ton of money for a down payment, start investing as a result of not having that overhead. And yeah, I mean, I guess I just kind of had the no plan B, no turning back mentality over that period.
I love that, and that's such a great gift your parents gave you, and it's sort of the same thing as, like, if a parent is gonna pay for college, if they provide the space for you to develop as an entrepreneur, as a creator for literally less money, it's it's kinda cool, but it's a mindset change on, like, what careers are and how they work, and obviously the world is changing and opportunities are different and stuff like that. What, going from, like, doing better than fast food income or around there, side hustle style, can you pinpoint, like, one video or one strategy? Or I think they probably a lot of things started to snowball at once, but what really helped you go from side hustle to homeowner?
Yeah, there were a couple things there. One was, if you look at my channel, you'll see in the very early days, I was making whatever I wanted. So it at the time, it was a lot of what I thought were comedy sketches. I go back now and I'm like, what is this? You know, but at the time I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I'm a comedian. Then I started to solidify my interest in tech, but it was consumer tech, hardware. So I wanted to be the next Marquez Brownlee. That was my dream as a teenager, was doing the iPhone reviews, the accessories, getting all the tech before it comes out with the press embargoes and all that. And I started to figure out somewhere along the line that software content is a lot more profitable. And I didn't just pivot because it was profitable, it was also something I was interested in. But I, at one point, I want to say 2017, I experimented and made a video on the best place to buy a domain name. And that became the video that really took off as far as views and revenue to get me to that sort of part-time, better than fast food income. So I started to clue in that, okay, software is that's what's profitable. I can get views that way. Why am I spending all this money buying technology to review it and I'm not making any money doing that? It's way more competitive. Let me go all in on the software. So that was 2019 when I made that pivot. And all of 2019, I started making a bunch of comparison videos on domain registrars, web hosting, WordPress themes, just all sorts of different things. And I remember, I think it was about October 2019, maybe a little earlier, maybe September 2019. I got an email from a subscriber and he said, "Hey, love your content. Have you ever thought of making a VPN comparison video?" And I replied to him, I was probably like way too open and honest at the time because I just like told him everything I was thinking. I was like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. That's a great idea. Actually, I have thought of that. I'm interested in VPNs, but it's not really my niche. I don't do cybersecurity content, so I'm not going to make the video." Uh,
And by the
don't
way, this is the top performing video on his channel.
Yes, yes, yeah. So don't know that I would say it like that today, but I was just like super direct. So he replies and he goes, "Okay, yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, but my brother has a YouTube channel and his niche was skateboarding. And like one time he made a video that was completely unrelated to skateboarding and it was the top performing video on his channel. So I don't know, I just think you should reconsider." And I don't know why I listened to this guy, but something in me was like, "Huh, okay. Yeah, maybe I should make a VPN comparison." And one of my struggles being an entrepreneur is I'm a visionary person to where I can sell myself on just about any idea, and then I sort of lose that pulse of, is this objectively a good idea or a bad idea? Like I can get excited about anything. So I convinced myself it was a good idea. Then it was like, yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm going to make the video. So I made it. I released it November 2019 and it already started doing very well over the next 3 months. So I already had considered it a success, but then when COVID happened, lockdowns hit March 2020, the video absolutely blew up. And I imagine it was just everyone starting to work from home, people thinking, "Oh, I need a VPN," and searching for it. I'm still to this day kind of scratching my head trying to figure out like why did it blow up then? What happened? Cuz spoiler alert, the VPN comparison content is not really performing anymore. So like I'm still like, what happened? Why did it do well in that period? I don't really know, but that one video alone is or was responsible for the majority of my financial success over that 2-year period of being able to invest, save a down payment, just really get myself in that full-time income position.
A couple of quick questions on that. How long did it take you to go from idea to video published for the VPN video?
Probably about 4 weeks, because I had decided I was gonna make the video in September, and I think I had a couple videos I was already working on ahead of that, so I think I spent about a week reaching out to all these VPN companies, asking if they would provide test accounts, allowed about a week for them all to get back to me, and then probably 2 weeks of testing the VPNs, collecting data, speed tests, all that, and then about a week for the actual video production and turnaround.
Is that like an average for one of your videos, like about 4 weeks to go through that process, or what's it like now for idea to publish?
Now it's much more organized.
Okay.
So my creative director and I will have monthly meetings where we plan out 4 videos, and my content calendar is always 2 to 3 months ahead. So right after we have that meeting, it'll be 3 months ahead, and then I make a month's worth of content. It starts to get down to 2 months, and then we meet again at the top of the next month, and then it's 3 months out. So, as far as the actual ideation, knowing what content we're making next, those are scheduled 3 months out. As far as like actually starting on a video, sometimes I might start some of the research 4 to 6 weeks out if it's some kind of comparison where I really need to give it time to evaluate a product, or if it's a topic that I'm already very familiar with, it doesn't really require testing or research ahead of time. Sometimes I'm scripting the video 2 days before I shoot it, and we shoot videos 2 weeks before they come out. So, I guess that would be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks as far as pre-production time.
Quick question there. Do you use a teleprompter or do you have like bullet points that you kind of riff off of for the script, or how do you do that part?
Very chaotic. I do
Yeah.
not use a teleprompter. I used to, but I wanted to get away from that because I could always tell, you can see yourself looking at the camera and your eyes are like bouncing around. I just was never fully happy with how that looked. So I got away from that, but I'm a very long-winded person. And when I script my content, no matter how much I try to just stick to basic bullet points, I write full sentences. So I end up writing a word for word script, and then I kind of treat it like bullet points. I'll just sort of like glance down at my script, look at the next few sections, be like, okay, that's what I'm going to say, and then look at the camera and do that section. Most of the time, I end up sticking to the script pretty closely, but I also try to remind myself this is just a guide. I don't have to follow this word for word because sometimes I'll stress out about, did I say that right? Did I get the right word? And unless I'm saying something that would make the technical terminology inaccurate or would like somehow make the statement untrue, I try to give myself that flexibility and say, I don't have to stick to it word for word.
That's a pro tip right there where, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like, you have your script outline, you do a sentence or a paragraph or a segment, and then you look down and then you look back, re-engage for the next section, and then you just edit that stuff out in the post production, and it makes a great video, and you maintain the eye contact or attention with all that editing, but you don't have to like edit as you go, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the biggest tips that I can give that's worked for me is I will always record something in sections until I'm happy with it. and I at least make sure that the first sentence I say is the same every time. So I don't edit my videos anymore, but when I did edit, it was really easy for me to quickly go through that footage, and I would just go to the last time that I say something. So I just keep re-recording a section till I'm happy. The last one I know is the one that I'm happy with because that's the one where I just stopped and moved on to the next one. So if I'm saying like uh next let's talk about pricing, if that's the top of a section and I record several paragraphs after that, I'll just skip in my timeline when I'm editing till I stop hearing next let's talk about pricing. And then I know, okay, that's the one. Delete everything before it. Then I'm not like watching six different takes going, okay, when do I need to make this cut? It's just a lot more evident and speeds up the A-roll edit quite a bit.
Just for inspiration and just reality check, how many videos did you make approximately before the VPN video until you kind of struck pay dirt or, really had a takeoff success?
Oh,
Or
I
how many
don't.
years? How much time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was 2019. I started my channel in 2011. I would say the first probably 3 years of my channel, it was a very loose hobby. Like I had no upload schedule, so I'm not sure if I'd really count that time because I was still just kind of figuring out if that's something I wanted to do more. So if you factor out those 3 years, that would be, what is that, 2014? Yeah, so like 2014 to 2019, that 5-year period of just making consistent content. For most of that 5 years, I was uploading once a week. Definitely from 2019 to now, I've been uploading just about weekly with a couple exceptions. So it was probably 4 to 5 years, and I would guess at least 300 videos that I made before I really started to see that traction.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell us about your audience or like your avatar, your ideal learner or subscriber. What are they like? Who are you making these videos for?
That's been an ongoing debate for quite some time, but I believe, from the polls I've run and the people in my audience I've talked to, it seems to be a mix of both small business owners and tech enthusiasts, which is kind of a weird mix, but half of it is these small business owners like freelancers, local, think like bakeries, landscapers, um, business owners that maybe don't have the resources to hire someone to build their website, or they're like, I need a custom email, I don't really know what to do. They find my content and they learn about how to build their website, how to get a custom email, the tools that they should be using, and they may not necessarily be that passionate about tech or even really care about tech. It's almost a necessity to them of, I have to do this DIY because I can't afford to hire someone right now. So that's probably half of the audience. The other half would be tech enthusiasts that just like geeking out about comparing different tools. And it's been interesting for me to sort of capture both of those audiences where both the small business owner can walk away from a web hosting comparison and say, "Thank you so much. Like you really helped break it down for me. I feel good about the web host that I chose because of your video." And the tech enthusiast can go, like, I think they can see, like, the internal geekery that I have, so they know that even if I maybe don't go super in depth on a particular section of the video that, like, maybe they would go a little deeper on, they still respect my opinion. They think it's, interesting to know what I think about different products and services. So I'd guess that's the core of my audience and what my avatars look like, but I know it's kind of two very different crowds.
How do you make a good comparison video? I was impressed when you said earlier, like with the VPNs, you did a bunch of research and looked at things. But if you're comparing like WordPress plugins or themes or hosting companies or domain name registrars, what's the key to making good comparison content? Because a lot of people go to YouTube to be like, help me figure out which tool. I'm solution aware and there's these products. How do I pick one? How do you make good content in a comparison?
My ideology has always been approach it with a consumer first mindset. There's way too much comparison content that treats it like a spec sheet. It's just, oh,
Feature.
we went to the pricing table and this company gives you this much storage and this company gives you this much and blah 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 blah. It's like anyone can go to the landing page and make those comparisons. So I don't find that very useful. My mindset has been really put myself in the shoes of the consumer, and that often includes the setup process of a tool. So, what are they going to experience from day one? The actual usage of the tool, customer service, that's a big one that I'm passionate about as well. Is when I'm testing a web host, I'll act dumb and reach out to their customer service and be like, how do I migrate my site? Or like, how do I connect my domain? And then they'll, oh, point it to our name servers. Oh, what is a name server? How I don't know these terms. So just really trying to imagine what would the average user be doing here and what experience would they have? And there could be a case where a host has really poor responses with customer support. They're just not helpful at all. And for me, that may not be an issue because I'm relatively tech savvy. So I could be like, hey, I know what they mean. I know what they're trying to say. Or like, I don't even need their help to begin with because I'm pretty self sufficient with going in the panel, doing what I need to. But I can also be objective and see the average consumer would be really frustrated. They would be confused. They would be at the point of wanting a refund, just being like, I don't understand. Like they're not being any help. I'm so lost. So by really putting myself in the shoes of the consumer, that's helpful. The other thing I would say is I've tried to cut out any part of the comparison that is redundant as far as features. So if like every web host has 99.9% uptime, I'm not going to waste time being like naming out five different web hosts. They all have 99.9% uptime because I feel it becomes irrelevant if they all have it. I've sort of approached my research and scripting from the basis of point out the differences rather than the similarities, and people can sort of figure out what the similarities are, or that kind of becomes obvious when you're doing a little bit of research looking at all the landing pages.
That's awesome. So, tangentially related to that, how did you overcome imposter syndrome, i.e., fear of being on camera, is one aspect. When you're doing comparison posts, I mean, if it's a giant company like Chrome versus Opera, another one of your top performing videos, it's sort of like a big faceless org. But comparison content, maybe you're talking about smaller companies and stuff like that, and maybe you're like, oh, they might not like my video, and or I know some people that work there, or whatever. How do you get through all that imposter syndrome and just confidence in, having an opinion on something on the internet?
Well, for the being on camera side, I think it's just many years of doing it. I don't think there was ever a time in my life that I felt really nervous on camera, but definitely when I started out, it was a little bit more awkward, a little bit uncomfortable, but I think just doing it for so long, I became more and more comfortable on camera, and that's never really been a big issue for me to overcome, which I know that's not the case for everyone, but I guess I was somewhat natural at it from day one. Now, as far as being worried about offending companies, I think I also started making comparisons before I was at the stage in life of understanding like networking and humans behind stuff. I mean, obviously, like I didn't think robots made stuff, but like I I just didn't quite get that yet. And I think that actually worked out to my advantage because that allowed me to just be brutally honest about what I thought with the product. And then getting to that place later in life of being like, oh, there's real people behind these products. And like now I have these relationships. Honestly, that didn't happen for me till about 3 years ago. That's when I first started going to events and meeting people and sometimes meeting team members at directly competing products and being like, wow, they're great people, they're nice, they're great people, they're nice. Now this is weird because I feel like I'm pitting the two companies against each other. But I've sort of learned that if a company is worth working with, having a relationship with, they're going to be open to honest feedback and they're going to want that. And if they get upset by something you say, they disown you, they're like, "Ah, we want nothing to do with you," then I probably don't care to work with them anyway, so I'm kind of fine burning that bridge. Um, I have sort of tried to be a little bit more careful as the years have gone on to make sure that everything I say is true. I don't want to accuse a company of something that's not true or pick on them just to pick on them. I've done that a little bit in the past. You can probably see in my top videos. There's one particular company I've never been fond of. But yeah, I think just realizing, okay, if a company is worth working with, they're going to be open to that feedback. And I also tell companies, hey, you can always sponsor content. Like, it, okay, qualifier here, because I don't want anyone to think I'm like a sellout or something. I will only work with a company on a sponsored capacity if their product is good enough that I can recommend it in some way. But for no product is 100% perfect. So for every product, I've got good things and bad things to say. So if a company has already been vetted as a product that I could recommend for certain people, and they're like, hey, how can we get content on your channel that is just presenting our product in a positive light? Then I tell them, well, you can sponsor some content if you want, because that gives you the control to say, hey, we're paying you to share the message about our product. And then it's going to be presented more from like a brand awareness perspective of, hey, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video. Here's all the positive things instead of like, hey, you're in an organic comparison and you're getting free press, but that's going to include both the good and the bad.
Awesome. Well, as a podcaster, I try not to ask 2 questions at once, but just to set it up, if somebody wants to make money online from YouTube, on one side, let's imagine, and I'm speaking to like the course creator audience here. One person like wants to get into courses, but they actually want to start with a YouTube channel and figure out how to monetize it, practice being on camera, really monetize the YouTube channel. So that's like question one, advice to get started in terms of monetization and what to focus on first. And on the other side, you have people that have already created a course or a coaching program or a membership site. And they're like, I want to do marketing on YouTube. I still want to make money online, but I want to get people on YouTube over to my website for my courses and coaching and community and all that stuff. So what would you advise those two different segments in terms of getting started with YouTube, fastest path to revenue, monetization, traffic? It's a big question, I know.
Yeah. For that first person, I would push back just a little bit. Whenever someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to do this for a living. What advice will you give me?" I sort of push back and say, "That's great. Like I'm all for it. I love what I do. I want other people to do the same thing and enjoy it. I would only get into this if you're willing to commit to it for 2 to 3 years and not make a cent.
Mhm.
If you can put up with that, great, then I'll give you some advice. If not, if you're looking for some way to fast track and like, oh, there's got to be some magic formula where in 6 months I can be profitable on my channel, don't do it. You're just going to waste 3 months of your life. You're going to get frustrated and quit. And I've seen that cycle so many times with beginners where they get this kick of inspiration. They make content for 3 months and they say, oh, no one watched my stuff. I didn't make any money. Well, yeah, you did it for 3 months. So Mr. Beast always says, make your first 100 videos before you ever judge analytics, revenue, anything. Like, you don't have a license to judge that or say, "Oh, it didn't work," until you've made 100 videos. So that's the preface. Once you're past that and you say, "Okay, I'm willing to make that commitment. I'm in it for the long run." It really is just about repetition and not being afraid to experiment heavily with both topics and formats. A lot of creators, new creators, think they have to find a niche from day one, and like they have to be tied down to this one specific strategy. And I think that can be hurting them more than helping them, because they're not allowing the freedom to explore, to find the thing that actually works. Like for me, I pivoted a lot over my YouTube journey and found something that really worked well. But if I had been really stuck from day one, like, imagine I started doing comedy content and that's all I ever did. Because in my head, I was like, that's my niche, niche down. Everyone tells you niche down. So I have to be fixated on that. And that's going to be the secret to growing my channel, is sticking with that. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. So, yes, it is important to niche down at some point once you start getting traction and say, okay, this is a path I'm comfortable committing to. But when you're making those first 100 videos, just explore, make videos on content that you're passionate about, try different things. If you want to make something that's completely different from anything you've ever made as far as topic, do it. Try it out. Maybe it does really well, and maybe you decide, hey, this is something that I want to stick to. Because once you find something that works, you start making views, you start getting some traction. The revenue will come with it naturally through both AdSense, if you're talking about products, affiliate links. Um, Honestly, like the only practical tip I could give as far as making revenue would be put affiliate links in your content from day zero. I slept on that for way too long, and I wish I had started putting them in my content earlier, because you never know when a video is going to take off. So don't wait till you're getting views to sign up for affiliate programs. They're super easy to get into, most of them at least. Um, Sign up from day one, put affiliate links in your content. As you grow, if you're interested in getting into sponsorships, I would look into Justin Moore. I love his content. He's the sponsorship coach guru, has his own course as well. Of course, who doesn't? That's a guru. But I've learned a lot from Justin as far as negotiating with brands, landing bigger brand deals, stuff that's a bit more sustainable, rather than the one off content pieces that are like, that's what I've done for the past couple years before finding Justin's content, is like one video here for a brand, one video there, just very all over the place. So definitely recommend Justin Moore's content. And also, not thinking you need 100,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers to make money. That's one encouragement that I would give a beginner, is you can monetize earlier depending on the niche that you're in. Some are more profitable than others at the small channel level, but I really was able to start seriously monetizing around 10,000 subscribers. And I think that can be true for a lot of channels. The YouTube ad revenue can even start at 1,000 subscribers. So stick with it for the long run, explore your interests. Don't be afraid to try a bunch of things till you find something that works. Then the monetization sort of falls into place. Now, for that second person, the course creator that wants to use YouTube as a lead gen strategy, I would just shoot for search on YouTube. If you already know SEO strategies, choosing a focus keyword, optimizing your title and description for those keywords. Like if you're comfortable optimizing a blog post for SEO, it's a very similar strategy on YouTube. There's a couple tools out there like TubeBuddy and vidIQ that you can use to analyze your title and description and say you're doing well or you need more keywords. But I think when you aim for search, you're going to capture that audience who's ready to make a purchase decision. They're ready to solve a problem. If they're searching, how do I build a WordPress site? And your video comes up, they watch it, they go, this guy knows what he's talking about. I want to enroll in his course. That's probably a more valuable lead gen strategy than trying to do the sensational Mr. Beast type content. I built 100 WordPress sites in 100 hours. Shocked face in the thumbnail. Like, uh, you can try to go the more entertaining route, but I found that it just doesn't convert as well with educational content.
Solid advice. Really appreciate that. Last question, Christian. What's your vision for your academy at Academy? I'm asking, like, it seems like there's a fork in the road. Some YouTubers that monetize with courses create a signature course that's like their main thing. And it's just like, and maybe they redo it every couple years or whatever. Or they do a lot of like mini courses or a membership with like, okay, this is a focused, like, how to build a yoga studio website with Cadence course, and then there's another course about how to build a restaurant site with online ordering, and they're like these mini courses. Are you more signature course guy, or do you envision like a lot of courses?
I see myself going the mini course route. And furthermore, I even see a world in which I treat my website almost like its own YouTube and maybe launch a membership because there's oftentimes people in my audience will ask, "Hey, can you make a tutorial about insert random niche item like I don't know, like how do I set up email hosting with this very specific email host?" And I think to myself, "Okay, I could sit down and start screen recording and make that video in probably 20 minutes. But if I upload that video to my channel, it's going to bomb. It's going to drag everything down. It's way too niche. It's not going to get enough views. And like if I produce that video to the level that I do content on my channel, it's not going to be a 20-minute process. It's going to then blow up into like a 2 to 6 week process.
Right.
So I've sort of been on this thread of, I want to help my audience. When someone asks that, I would like to sit in front of my computer and just record a quick 20-minute video and something that would be highly valuable to them. But I can't upload it to my YouTube channel, so I just don't make it. But in the future, I would love to have some kind of membership program where people can join and I can say like, "Hey, you're in the $10 a month membership program? Cool. I'll make a video, I'll put it on my website, hope it helps." And then there's, they're getting value out of it. Maybe it helps solve a problem that they were feeling overwhelmed by. For me, it's something that I can justify because I've got this base of members that are paying to be part of the site. And I don't have this pressure of the YouTube algorithm of if I make a video and it doesn't perform, I'm sort of damaging my channel in a sense. I don't really have to care about that because it's my own website. So if the video gets 10 views and helps 10 people, then great.
Nice. I love that. That's definitely a pro tip, and I hear it throughout your story that, and this is the story of Lift Your LMS as well. The audience literally pulls the product out of you, and that's a great way to think about a membership. Just take common questions and, make mini courses or tutorials for those people. You can't not be successful that way when they're literally asking for it, particularly when there's several, you've heard the question so many times, you're like, I think I need to make that email hosting video. I love that. Well, that's Christian Taylor. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. That's Krahler Made. And also check out his academy at krahler.academy. And thanks for coming on the show, Christian. We really appreciate it. Keep up the great work. And it's great to be with you on the journey. Is there anywhere else you want to send people or any final words that you'd like to say?
Um, just thanks for having me. And CrailerMade.com is probably the best place to go to find links to my channel, the academy, everything. And I'll just spell it out. It is Craylor, Crailer. I only spell it because people often ask me like, What are you saying? Or how do I spell that?" So for all the audio listeners out there, there you go. But yeah, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks, Christian.